back here on the Art for Lauderdale podcast, episode 14, with local artist, Zero Empty Spaces resident, Sergio, from his Zero Empty Spaces studio in our Las Olas location here at 888 East Las Olas Boulevard, which we'll talk about in a little bit. If you didn't know about Art for Lauderdale, we created the first art fair on the water that takes place in luxury waterfront homes off the Las Olas Intercoastal Waterways, made only accessible via boat. It creates a unique opportunity to view and interact with art in a setting where art ultimately lives. And it's a very leisurely, enjoyable Fort Lauderdale day. Dates are January 23rd through the 26th. Tickets and more information can be found at www.artftlauderdale.com. If you didn't know me, I'm Evan Snow. I'm the co-founder of Art for Lauderdale. And we do this podcast to connect you with the artists like him that make the fair what it is. So without much further ado, you tell us a little bit about yourself.
What's up, man?
At a high level.
So, what number is this?
I think this is 14.
So you've done that message 14 times.
Something like that.
Because I've seen a lot of these podcasts, and they're pretty good, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
But I really, after like the first two, I scrubbed through that whole message. You need to clap. All right, so I'm Sergio, born in Los Angeles, raised in Miami, and moved to Fort Lauderdale about 15 years ago, and haven't looked back.
Really?
I love me some Fort Lauderdale, bro.
How about that?
I do love Fort Lauderdale. It's the place. All my Miami people are gonna hate me for it, but it's the grown up place.
You got kids?
Listen, I got kids. I bought a house on a quarter acre. I can't do that in Kendall. I can't do that in Miami. Please.
No, 100%.
And if I buy a mansion, the whole mansion takes up the quarter acre.
And here
Miami.
You're right down the street from your studio.
And I'm right down the street from the studio. It's beautiful. No, Fort Lauderdale is great. So yeah, so I moved to Fort Lauderdale, but I still do tons and tons of work in Miami, obviously. A lot of my work actually comes from Miami, but I'm 30 minutes away.
How about that?
I'm fine with that. And then I'm so close to my studio. I'm in here working, but I've been an illustrator all my life. I've been an artist. I was a creative director, a designer, and 4 or 5 years ago, I decided to go out on my own. I was in a place in my art career, if you want to call it that, where I saw that I could go out, I could leave the agency world and go out and be a full-time artist. And so far so good. It's been 4 or 5 years. I have my artist, illSurge, and I have my agency, Thunderous Genius Creative House, which does a lot of the corporate and branding projects that I don't want to put Sergio in.
Sure.
But I want to drive, keep that business. So right now I manage both of those. And then you're sitting in my studio right here, which is all the illSurge stuff.
How about that?
How about that? Oh, and by the way, ill stands for illustrator.
Ah, I didn't know that.
Not, oh, that's ill. Because I think a lot of people call me illSurge because of my Instagram handle or my website, but I think it's the stupidest name.
But you can't change it now?
But I can't change it now, so. But yes, ill stands for illustrator because I've been an illustrator my whole life.
I did not know that. The more you know.
You can tell.
And how did you get started, either as an illustrator or in the arts, graffiti world, and kind of talk us through the transition from you as, not going to say a punk graffiti artist, but but you as an artist to where you are now. How's that process and that transition going?
Listen, I believe we're all artists when we're born. We all want to create some form or another. Some of us stop, and some of us keep going. I've never stopped drawing. I was influenced through late elementary, all of middle school, some of high school. I was influenced by graffiti. Growing up in Kendall, we had a bunch of graffiti crews running around in Miami and stuff like that. I suck at lettering, terrible at lettering, but I was really good at doing characters, and I would draw the characters, and my boys would do the letters. I stopped graffiti because all my boys would steal paint from Ace Hardware. Sorry, Ace Hardware.
We'll make it up to you later.
And I would cut lawns in my neighborhood in Kendall. I would cut lawns to be able to buy some paint here and there. And when I was buying the paint, I was the dummy you know, to distract them while my boys were running through with paint in their pockets and shit. So that, like, I couldn't hang with that. I couldn't hang with that. So my graffiti career slowly was very slow. But, you know, a few artists that I know, that I've met through Miami, that I'm fans of, that I'm friends with, we all, you know, there's this thing that we call post-graphism, where it's basically you're influenced by the graffiti culture,
Mm-hmm.
the tools, the culture. So I do consider myself a post-graphism artist, because I enjoy the culture, because I love the culture, and I use spray paint every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even in this studio, I'm not supposed to, but
Water-based?
water-based here and there. But you know,
Andrew's gonna kill me.
no. Very little, very splatters here and there. But so post-graphism, so graffiti. So my graffiti career slowly, or quickly ended, I should say. But I never stopped drawing. And then I never stopped drawing. I went on and started, you know, I was an illustrator for New Times in Miami for a freelance illustrator for a couple of years. Right out of high school, I was a bailiff. I was a bailiff in the 11th Judicial Circuit for 5 years.
Did not know that either.
Did not know that either.
Yeah, Rick Ross over here.
Oh yeah. And no, see, Rick Ross was corrections. I was a bailiff.
Okay.
I was a bailiff. But I was the dude that would come in and say, "All rise." The Honorable Evan Snow presiding. That was me. I did that for 5 years right out of high school. I actually got fired from that job because, well, it was 5 years. I was in my, you know, graduating when I was 18 or whatever. I was in my early 20s, partying, having a good time, messing around, and I really did not want to be a bailiff.
Amen.
But it kind of just, you know. And I remember I would sit there. I would sit in the when we had trials in the courtroom, and I started a series called Juror Number 3. I think it was Juror Number 3. And whoever Juror Number 3 was, I would sit there and I would draw it. I would sit there. And then somehow a friend of a friend connected me to the New Times, and I started doing the calendar section of the New Times once a week. The art director at the time, Alex Burr, and I are still very good friends. We became really close. And so he exposed me to publication. I remember they would pay you so much to do the calendar, and they would pay you X amount to do the cover. And I never got a cover.
Aww.
I wanted a cover so bad. But there was this badass illustrator, I forget his name, but all his work, he had no black lines in his work. You know, like he had no black lines. Like all his work was like, if there was skin, it was a dark beige and a light skin color, and I was like, that blew my mind. I was like, how does he do that? So Alex taught me Adobe Illustrator,
Wow.
the New Times art director. He said, yeah, that's Adobe Illustrator. And I at the time, when I would draw my sketches or Juror Number 3 or whatever it was, I would scan them and I would color them in Photoshop, kind of using the airbrush in Photoshop and that type of stuff. And I would print them out, but I wouldn't do anything with them. So Alex introduced me to Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, and from that point forward, it just blew, Adobe Illustrator just like it
When
just
was that?
it just blew my mind. I don't know, early 2000s.
Oh wow.
Had to be early 2000s because I was right out of high school. I graduated in 97. I don't know, maybe 2002, 2001, around there.
Wow.
So I learned Adobe Illustrator, and it just, as an illustrator, Adobe Illustrator completely blew my mind as to what you can do with it. And it gave you, everything turned vector. Everything was vector. So from that point forward, my mindset was like all digital. Like I was pumping out work. All my sketches, I would scan a Post-it, and it was dope as fuck. And I wanted to scan it, and I wanted to do it in Illustrator so it could be crispy and clean. And then I'd send it to the printer, and I'd print it out, and it'd be like this big and whatever. So my first show was actually my first solo art show. Was actually in downtown Hollywood at a gallery called the Gallery of the Unknown Artist. Perfect name for me to have a show there.
About that.
And I don't know how I got in contact with the gallery, but I had a show, and my entire show was everything was done in Adobe Illustrator and printed on canvas and wrapped, like gallery wrapped, the way this is. And I had a show. I had like 12 pieces. It was just me. I had a good friends, and friends came out and supported. Friends and family came and supported. And I sold, I want to say I sold 7 or 8 pieces. Most of the pieces, all the pieces were all vector printed on canvas. I had a couple sneakers because I've been drawing on sneakers forever. And I was like, damn, I could do this for a living. And then I tried to do a second art show and it's failed. It was horrible. Like, my first show sold 80% of the shit. Okay. I was like, shit, I could do this. My second show was a joke, and I think it's because maybe I got lazy in the work or something. But what I did notice about my first show was, even though it sold, I noticed like people really staring at the lines and wondering how my brush was so thin and how I got the paint down. And I spent the whole night explaining to people, no, I didn't use paint. I designed it on a computer and I printed it. And that kind of, even though to me, computers is a tool, a creative tool. I'm convinced if Leonardo, if all our Renaissance masters had computers, they would use them. I mean, it's just another art form.
Right.
It's just another tool. But back then in 2005, 2006, when my first show was, to have something all vector like that, you're kind of, I guess people felt like they were being fooled.
Sure.
Because it was on canvas, right?
Sure.
And it was clean. And yes, there's artists that paint like that, but I don't.
Right.
So slowly but surely, I realized that people, I think, wanted to see the mistakes in the art. I think they wanted to see, like that. They wanted to see the brush stroke. They wanted to see. So I started painting on canvas, and I went. I started painting on canvas, but then I also linked up with a few of my old graffiti buddies, and we started back up on some murals in Wynwood. And I enjoyed the quickness of painting on a wall with spray paint. Like I can bust out an entire wall in a day, and a canvas will take me 5 days a week. Like it takes forever to paint with acrylic brush. But so I started painting on canvas. So I slowly left the canvas world, if you will, the studio work, and everything was concentrated back on the walls in Wynwood. And at that time, Wynwood was on a rise. It was right after Black Books and all those dudes did primary flights out there at the same time with Art Basel, which kind of took the convention center, what is really Art Basel. Everybody thinks Art Basel is all Miami. It's just the convention center. Right. But it took that and it spilled it over into South Beach. So galleries and boutiques were having pop-ups with artists. And then what Primary Flight did with this mural project to bring everybody to Wynwood, we were already there painting.
Right, but nobody knew about Wynwood in 07, 08,
correct,
09.
But nobody knew about Wynwood then. Primary Flight, for whatever reason, got attention from the convention goers, and it kind of spilled over onto Wynwood. And to me, Primary Flight bringing that Euro Festival. By the way, I had nothing to do with Primary Flight. I wasn't painting.
Sure.
But it was those guys putting that festival together. When randomly you would drive through Wynwood, and you would see somebody painting a mural. During Primary Flight, you saw 14 murals going up at the same time during Art Basel.
Right.
So it became a thing to go to Wynwood, and then slowly but surely, from there on, every Art Basel, Wynwood has been a monster. And then everything that Jessica Goldman has done out there, and bringing out, I'll probably get shit for this, but bringing out the A-list artists, out there and bringing more attention to
that
Wynwood.
helped contribute.
That's how I feel. It helps. There's a place for everybody.
It's unfortunate, the Wynwood effect, and it's unfortunate that areas get gentrified, and it's unfortunate that an area that Andrew and Brandon Apopka would rent a warehouse for $100 15 years ago, that same warehouse now sells for $40 million, and it's unfortunate that the artists build the area up, developers come in. If you didn't know what the Wynwood effect was, and that's unfortunately now happening, not just in Wynwood, but it's happened in Little River and Little Haiti. It's happened in Flagler Village and Fat Village in Fort Lauderdale. It's happened in Bushwick, and it's happened in a lot of other places.
But it's also, I mean, like, it sucks, and I've actually gotten into arguments with other artists while I'm in a mural painting about this topic. Gentrification stinks, but it's also good. So there's bad and good to it, right? You look at what South Beach, what Lincoln Road was in the 60s. There was a bunch of artist studios. It was a fucking dump. And the artists come, we get our studios going, we make it hip to be around and hang out. Some dude wants to put a club, some dude wants to put a restaurant, the galleries come.
And they build vertically.
They build vertically. So that aspect of it sucks, but then again, you're like, I don't know. It's a touchy subject.
Nobody really wants blighted, dilapidated, vacant buildings, warehouses, commercial, otherwise, in their neighborhood. But yes, unfortunately, as a result, people get displaced. People that have occupied that area for a really long time can't afford to be there anymore. We see that very, very prevalent in Little Haiti and in Little River, unfortunately. But art is a problem solver. Art, undoubtedly, the effect and growth and success of Art Basel, and then ultimately the growth and success of Wynwood, has established Miami as a well-cultural destination in the world.
Oh, listen, you're gonna look back. We're all gonna look back. Like I've been very lucky to be at the right place at the right time. Yes, I'm a skilled artist. Yes, I put my shit out there. Yes, I have supporters that like my work. But I was also at the right place at the right time. A few times. And that's what Wynwood is. Like, we're gonna look back at it 30 years from now and be like, I was a part of that. The same way you look back at Warhol and these guys and look at Soho and say they were a part of that.
100%. And that's ultimately, and I've shared this previously, like that's part of my biggest inspiration is the artists of Soho and Manhattan in the late 70s, early 80s, the Keith Harings, the Andy Warhols, the Kenny Sharps, the Basquiat's. When New York City was burning down and President Ford said, we're not going to bail out Manhattan, which is unfathomable to think about, 40 years later, that they weren't going to bail out Manhattan when it was burning down, and the artists helped make Soho cool and revitalize New York City, which ultimately has had a similar effect with the growth and revitalization of Miami, which now we're ultimately seeing has had a big effect with the growth and revitalization of Fort Lauderdale. Nobody was developing in Flagler Village, in Fat Village, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago before the art walk became cool, before arts became cool. So artists do play a key role in that.
Oh, artists play a humongous role, whether they want to be a part of it or not.
And we're hoping that how Art Basel has had a signature effect in revitalizing Miami and making Miami Art Week and Art Basel a signature destination around the art world in December. We're hoping Art Fort Lauderdale can have a similar effect here in January, and we're really glad to have you a part of it. And we're really glad that, it's not all traditional fine art. You are a post-graphism artist, and you are a noteworthy, collected, very highly followed and very highly supported artist on multiple different categories. We're glad to have you participating to give the breadth of the art world, because it's not all just blue chip artists, it's not all just highbrow art. This is collectible art, and also the price point is still relatively affordable. And I think a lot of what makes your art attractive to people, especially new collectors, people of our generation, our demographic, the characters, the symbolism, and the imagery resonates with our generation or demographic. Sneaker influence, the crown. Can you talk to us about your current practice and the characters? We see a lot of flamingos. Can you talk to us about how your work has transformed to where you are now in your career?
So it took a while, even though I've been an illustrator all my life and an artist all my life, it took a while for me to accept that my illustrations can be on canvas. You know what I mean? Like, as a collection.
Not that you were worried about selling out or anything, but
honestly, I don't care about
exactly.
selling.
No, 100%.
I've had that discussion with many artists. Nobody's paying my bills but me.
Yeah, 100%.
And if I can make money off of my craft with my hands and provide for my family,
100%.
I'm going to 100%. But so as I was trying to find myself as an artist, I had so many influences. Like even like Justin Bua. I'm a big fan of Justin Bua's work. I used to illustrate very similar to him, not without even knowing Justin Bua. I used to illustrate my characters like that. They all had the elongated, hands and arms, and they had this hip hop graffiti vibe to them. And then when I saw him put that to paint, I was like, shit, this is fresh. Like, it's nice. I remember taking a class and taking a painting class, an acrylic class, because I hate this phrase, self-taught artist, because I've tried to take classes as I was younger and things like that, but like it's in me. Like, I'm not self-taught. Like, I have this talent. Not a lot of people have this talent, but I did not know the technique of painting. I still don't know. I'm learning now with brushes, and especially with acrylic paint now, and everything's so easy with spray paint. It's not so easy.
You're varnishing?
I'm varnishing. I varnished today for the first time. But so I remember going into that class, and I was an adult in my 30s saying, I want to learn to paint like this. And I brought Justin Bua's book. I'm like, here, that's how I want to learn to paint.
Where was this class?
In Broward, Broward College. Some teacher was teaching acrylic. I think it was acrylic 2 or something. And very quickly that I realized is I couldn't paint like Justin Bua. Like, that's just who he is. It's not who I am. And for the longest time, and listen, I was still working full time. I was still a graphic designer, an art director, a creative director for an ad agency while all this was going on. I never stopped painting. So it took a little bit for me to really embrace my own characters, my own illustrations. I have a problem with, and I have a lot of friends that do this, but I have a problem with just repurposing characters that already exist.
No disrespect to those that do.
No disrespect to those that do, of course. And like I said, I have friends that do that, and they're very successful at doing that.
100%.
But it's just, I can't bring myself to doing it.
Right.
Can I paint Mickey Mouse and do it, my way, and he's holding this and doing that? Of course I can, But I feel like as an artist, and I'm not a trained artist, as an artist, you have to push yourself. You have to, I don't know, you just can't, like, you wouldn't do that in the streets. Like you wouldn't copy some other graffiti artist's letters or his character or anything, but it seems to be okay in the pop world, in the commercial space, which is okay. But I've also had the discussion with people that it's our form of pop art.
Right.
Warhol was doing the Campbell cans or whatever, the soup cans. Somebody that does SpongeBob, even a cause, that deconstructs SpongeBob. Like, I get it. I love Cause. I'm a big fan of Cause, but I still have a problem with it, So my point is, it took a lot for me not to go in that direction and not to paint like a Justin Bua, but to really embrace who I am and just say, fuck it. This is who I am. People like me. Just keep doing it. So I have a lot of characters that I developed. The flamingo being from South Florida. Even though I haven't seen a fucking flamingo here, but in
in like 20 years.
In like 40 years, I'm from Los Angeles, so I moved to Miami when I was young, when I was like 9 or 10, I saw flamingos in the Miami Vice intro when I was
growing up.
When I was in Los Angeles, But apparently Hialeah Park has flamingos because there used to be flamingos right there, some shit like that. I don't know. But I haven't seen a fucking flamingo if it's not at the zoo, Tampa, like behind the zoo or some shit like that. So, but nonetheless, the flamingo is like an iconic character of does that come out?
Yeah, that comes out.
So the flamingo is an iconic character of paradise, if you will. And as it is, I love bright fucking colors. So these colors, you can't really tell in the video, but these colors are bright. I love bright colors. So this is just one version of my flamingo, where he's mean looking. But so, you know, the flamingo is one of my characters. I tend to do him a lot. I'm kind of moving away from a static character, if you will, which a lot of people know my work by just doing a static thing. My backgrounds are very clean because, again, it goes back to design. It goes back to Adobe Illustrator. Stuff is just very clean. Since I've been in the studio, and you know, when I talked to you about the studio, you said you were opening Zero Empty Spaces. I was looking for a studio because in the last 4 or 5 years, I've been solely concentrated in the streets and in the corporate world, putting murals up.
Mm-hmm.
That has allowed me to get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been 6 months that I've been with Zero Empty Spaces, and I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to experiment with these characters and just like a mishmash of things and paradise, and that's not done up here. You can see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's like a character. Like I grew up loving cartoons, so that's like a take on like a Mickey Mouse or Steamboat Willie vibe,
Right.
you know. But it still has my mouth that everybody knows me by. I'm doing this series where I'm putting these things together, the palm fronds, you know, my little spray character. Nobody knows this, I don't know if I should say this here, but this is actually the Miami Dolphins' old logo. It's the sun, it's part of the sun.
Oh, I see it.
It's in the background.
Yeah, I do see it.
So I've been hiding that in all my logos, in all my work lately.
Interesting.
But again, that just goes back to South Florida.
Interesting.
So South Florida really inspires me. Paradise inspires me. The colors of paradise, the characters,
Yep.
And then obviously, you know, I'm inspired by all the amazing, true graffiti artists that we have in South Florida, and like so that's where my work is at right now. And I'm having a little bit of a hard time the last 6 months. I think I'm finding myself, but I'm having a little bit of a hard time with brush.
Okay.
And acrylic. So I posted a video of me painting something in here. I don't know what it was, and somebody commented and said, "Look at you holding a brush." But it's just like it's. I can see why, as a sought-after artist, and I'm not saying I'm a sought-after artist, but a Cause or a Justin Bua or a Greg Mike or
Right.
Tristan Eden, who's another one of my favorite ones, right? I can see how those guys get what they get for their work. I mean, this is fucking time consuming.
Right.
You know, it's so I'm having a hard time, but in 6 months I've been doing pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I pumped this out. You can't really see that one right now, but I pumped that one out.
Can we tilt the camera?
No, not
Okay.
yet. It still needs a lot of work.
Okay.
But
Like you come in here and see it at Zero Empty Spaces.
correct.
Which is a really cool thing.
No, it is. But listen, I'm happy. I'm happy to be in a place where I can create with my hands and provide for my family. My goal last year in 2019 was to get a studio. You were able to do that for me, thank you. And Zero Empty Spaces is dope as hell. My goal this year, here, go back there. I want to put this on camera because, so
This
behind
one?
the canvases, there's a print. There's a couple prints behind the canvases.
Is it?
There is. Open up the first one, pull out the first one, you see?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
I don't know if this comes out,
Yeah, it
it's
does.
too glossy.
It does.
All right, so this piece, here, let's go this way. There we go.
Oh.
Well, that's all right. So this piece is called Spread Love. A lot of my collectors, supporters, followers, friends, they know what it is. It's a hand clutching a heart. I've painted that piece in various murals.
Mm-hmm.
I've painted that piece, I've painted that piece a lot on canvas, whether it's through spray paint or acrylic brush. And this piece in particular, this one right here that I'm holding, this is all Illustrator. A lot of my work I do digitally first,
Mm-hmm.
put the colors down and then see if I want to paint a canvas, see if I want to paint a canvas of it. I think every artist has a theme that people know them by.
Mm-hmm.
My work is recognized by the mouth, of my characters, the hands.
Mm-hmm.
So this piece in particular, I fell in love with it just because it was so positive, but it has the hand, right? That a lot of my supporters know.
Mm-hmm.
I hate saying fans because it's weird. But,
Supporters.
you know, supporters, friends and family, they all know that. You can see a hand and you'll know that it's a Serge, like a Serge piece. I want to make this my icon. So my goal last year was to get a studio. Obviously, I've been an artist full time, a full working artist for 4 or 5 years. I've been working at home. My goal last year was to do a studio. You provided that for me, thank you. And then my goal for 2020 is to develop some type of 3D sculpture, you know, some type of living sculpture. I've seen Kaz's stuff. I've seen, you know, my buddy Remote does the resin skulls, and to see art in a 3D space is kind of cool. To be able to go from something digital and flat to like walk around it, I really, with the way my art is, I really want to produce that piece as a sculpture. So I'm putting it out there in the universe.
You might be able to make that happen.
2020, I want to produce that as a sculpture, maybe even some vinyl toys and things like that. Because my art, you know, my art lends itself to that. My art is purchased by the sneakerhead, the vinyl toy collector, the kid robot guy, you know, the guy that likes Greg Mike, Tristan Eden that developed the Dunnies or whatever.
80s babies.
You know, some 80s babies. Yeah, I guess.
Some
So.
80s babies.
Yeah, I guess so, some 80s babies. But now that I'm putting work onto canvas, I want to start doing some three-dimensional work as well. So I'm putting it out there in the universe.
I think we can make that happen.
Good.
And for friends of my mother and father and other friends, don't let the curse words fool you. He is a very nice guy and a father, and highly respected artist. I know you don't like to claim this, but I think it's pretty well established. You're more or less the artist for the Miami Dolphins. You were featured in the Pitbull video for the Super Bowl this year, and you know, not for nothing, you know, they Boston Wheels. Or who's going to paint this Lamborghini truck during Art Basel? Well, Serge will paint it. So
I've been blessed. I've been blessed in my so when I went out on my own 4 years ago, I reached out to all my contacts that I've had, and the Dolphins were one of them. I used to run with the flags. I'm a big time Dolphin fan, huge Dolphin fan, and I'm not going to get into details, but I used to run on the field with the flag. So I still had connects from that, and my business partner and I reached out to that person at the Dolphins and said, hey, this is what we're doing. This is the type of work we do. We do art installations, we do murals, we do live art. We have a network of 40 plus artists because I put all my friends on, all my talented friends.
hey,
I put all my friends on whenever I can. And I reached out to them, and I've been, it's funny, we went in and we pitched, and nothing happened. And then all of a sudden, it was an influx of stuff. A year later, I was like, okay, Serge can do that, Serge can do that, Thunderous Genius can do that. So I've been blessed to do that, and that has put me on, or has given me the exposure to be in front of other corporate people.
right.
I've done a bunch of stuff with Pepsi, and some of the Pepsi executives are on the committee with the Super Bowl, and
Plus.
they reached out to me and said, hey, can you do this mural for this video that we're doing for the Super Bowl?
Small video.
Small video. They made me look like a stud. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, right, yeah. Pitbull, Serge, you know, like.
They did listen. As a creative director, because I still wear that hat. There's still, you know, I go out through my agency, and if we got to shoot a music video or if we got to shoot a TV commercial, I still do that. So I still put that creative director hat on. As a creative director, I was nervous of how they were going to put this video together. You know, it's hard to just sit back and kind of, okay, this is what you're going to do, Serge, and whatever. So it was difficult for me to let go, and sometimes I kind of, oh, like, why don't you do the shot from here? Why don't you do this? And they obviously were more than capable, and they were an amazing team. And they put that. I was shocked. Like, I was shocked. I got so many phone calls. I got so many tags. So many things. It was pretty cool. They made me look like a stud.
Crazy.
And listen, they captured Miami. They tackled everything, or South Florida. And I say, even though it was Miami,
right,
but they captured South Florida. They did an unbelievable job. So I've done a few things for them. I've done a few helmets. I've done a few things. So it's nice to be able to, like, I've learned not to say no to projects. Like that project in particular.
Unless the budget's not right.
Well,
that's the difference.
It's the project.
Yeah.
It's not live painting for $200. I've learned, like, if I don't know how to do it, I'm gonna find somebody that can do it. You know what I mean?
Man, you got 40 artists, well, 40 plus artists that can do it.
Right. So that's part of Thunderous Genius, and Thunderous Genius also believes in the artist comes first.
Amen.
So, you know, the artist gets paid, which is something that a lot of people don't do.
Understood.
For whatever reason, you pay the DJ, you pay the caterer, but you want the artist to come in for free, which is fucking crazy. And yes, I'm sorry, Mom, I curse a lot. Sorry, Evan's mom.
She'll get past it, but you want to know what, if nothing else, even if not my mom, or even if not some of our collectors, VIPs, and fans watching this, there's probably some aspiring artist that's listening to this, and you know, so many, man, how can I get to this level? How does this happen? Well, this happened through lots of hard work. You're 20 plus years in the game now. At this point, you've transitioned from being an illustrator to being a graffiti artist, being a street artist, being a commissioned canvas art. I mean, a full-time, well-rounded artist. You invest in your craft. You've invested time. You've taken classes. You've learned from other artists. The conversations that I've been privy to listening to between you and Nate and Remote and other people, you're a true, you know, continually evolving artist, and it's a really beautiful thing to watch.
Thank you, and I think you have to. I think it's important. I think a lot of artists are like, they're into themselves, you know, or not into themselves. That's the wrong wording. They're what's the word? They're an introvert, right?
To say the least.
Right. They're in here. They're in their canvas. You know, when I paint live, I'm turning around. I'm handing the brush and the spray paint to somebody, and I'm making that connection, and I'm letting them fuck up my painting, because that's what happens.
Amen.
You know.
Amen.
You hire another artist, he has his back towards you, and that's not a knock on them. That's just who they are. A lot of artists are like that. I was never like that. I think it's my personality. But I think artists need to figure out that they just can't be in the studio painting.
Correct.
You have to figure out a way to put yourself out there. And one of the ways, the art fair. Perfect way to get in there, right? The art fair, you know. To me, the fucking art fair is crazy. Like, you guys, you and Andrew and whoever else is on your team that's making this happen, it's fucking crazy. 4 years you guys have been doing this. And I don't know if you people know this, but you get on a boat and you go see these 3 or 4 mansions. They're all vacant mansions, so they serve as the gallery, right? And you walk around and you got something to drink, something to eat, and you're looking at all this beautiful art. If you're an artist, you're giving that opportunity to artists to do that. And it's not expensive, which is great. But an artist can't sit in his studio and just think that people are going to come buy their stuff.
Especially if it's in their house or some kind of private place.
So Instagram, to me, is a tool. Very rarely will you see my family, my personal shit on Instagram. My Instagram is
your business page.
It's my business page. It's all about my business. It's all about art. Nobody cares about my son scored 3 goals in the last game. You know, in soccer, they care about what I'm painting. Facebook is different.
Right.
Facebook is my personal stuff. But my point is, get involved as an artist. Be good with who you are. It took me a while to just figure out that illustrating my characters is enough. Right? And then slowly you evolve and you meet other people, but you got to put yourself out there. Make yourself part of a group show. Go out to the art community. Meet people. do the art fair, do things like this that you're providing.
Do stuff with illSurge.
Right, correct. In Fort Lauderdale, I've done illSurge.
Correct.
I've done illSurge, like I did Red Eye 3 years in a row. And that turned into other opportunities, whether they're paid or not paid. You get to a point in your career that you have to say no to certain things. Sure. But I mean, when I was painting live at a bar, I did it for a couple of drink tickets. And then I would take the canvas home with me. You know, I don't do that anymore because you have to value yourself. But to get yourself out there, you have to put yourself out there like that.
100%.
You have to put in a little bit of the work.
100%.
You know, so get involved with like the art fair, go to out on the community, and Instagram is a big deal, man.
Yeah.
Instagram is a big deal. Nobody cares about what you're eating. Like, if you're an artist, have a buddy of yours take a picture of you working on something, take a picture of your studio, take a picture of your brushes with fucking paint, take a picture of you doing the process.
Correct.
Take a picture of your art. That is it, and use hashtags.
Correct.
People think you're like, no, use hashtags.
No, that's how it gets out there.
That's how you get into the Explorer page, you know?
And I think the process part, and if they don't know, which they might not know about Zero Empty Spaces, Serge, this is Serge's studio that we're in. So these are actually works that he's currently working on. Myself and my partner, Mr. Andrew Martineau, created an initiative because there were two main conversations that kept coming up. One of which was artists kept coming to us asking where are the studio spaces at, let alone affordable studio spaces. The second conversation, commercial realtors, real estate developers would come to us and say, hey, we want you to do cool stuff in our space. Oh, by the way, we're not going to pay you for it. So with my partner, Mr. Andrew Martineau, having a background in shopping center retail development and having created vacancy strategies for Westfield malls and other big places, we developed an initiative to activate vacant commercial real estate to make affordable artist studios at $2 a square foot. It wasn't by design that we were going to get a place on Las Olas, and now we're in the former Levinson Jeweler space at 888 Las Olas, and Sergio's studio is right next to the front door. That gets literally thousands of people that come in every week, but it creates an opportunity for the community, because it is open to the public, to literally walk in after dinner, after going to a show, after getting a drink, after an event, whatever the case may be, to come in, discover a local artist, see the process, see the brushes, see behind the scenes of what makes the artwork what it is. And the part that we're really most excited about, aside from just having you participate in the fair, which I'm glad to have you participate in because I like your work, what's super unique this year now that we have this studio space initiative, and because the art fair is primarily independent artist driven and it's artists not represented by a gallery, we've now created an opportunity. While there's 9 working artists in this Las Olas location, 4 of them are in the art fair. So now we actually are providing spaces, which was one of Serge's goals for 2019, to get a studio to create in. He's having opportunities, which he's succeeded in gaining new followers, collectors, commissions, so on and so forth. And then now he's able to take the work that he's creating in his studio space and exhibit it on, arguably, and it's not really much of an argument, the highest platform for art in Fort Lauderdale. It is the only 4-day art fair in Broward County. It is our signature annual art event, Art Fort Lauderdale, the Art Fair on the Water. So we're super grateful and super humbled to be able to provide opportunity for somebody like yourself. Although you're at a level in your career where you do get projects, you do get commissions, you do have collectors, you do have fans, you know, you do things.
You never want to stop that.
You can't stop.
You can't. The minute you go dark or you ghost on people,
correct,
their art, they forget about you.
And there's so many people that have never seen your work before, and especially because we are, you know, a higher level art fair. It is a $100 ticket. We are catering to a certain demographic. We're trying to get more collectors in the market here in Fort Lauderdale. I mean, these people might not have ever seen your work in Wynwood. They might not have ever seen that mural that's hidden behind Greg's Barbershop in Fountain Village that I love to photograph every time I see it. So if you haven't been to the art fair before, we hope you join us this year. The 4th annual Art Fort Lauderdale, the Art Fair on the Water, January 23rd through the 26th.
Come check me out, Art Indie House 2.
Where can they find you on the Instagrams and the interwebs?
illSurge. At illSurge on Illustrator, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. My website is illsurge.com. And yeah, listen, come say hi to me. You know, if you see me somewhere, I'm a very talkative person, as you can see.
He's a very approachable,
very approachable.
And mind you, we're, you know, for the sake of the conversation for the podcast, you know, he's going through his career and the things that have happened, and yes, he's been blessed with the opportunity to create work for the Dolphins, to be in a Super Bowl video with Pitbull, to do stuff with Madden and Pepsi and all these brands. But he is, I can tell you from getting to know Serge, developing our friendship relationship, very humble guy, very hardworking, very family oriented, super good guy. We're super grateful and humble to support him, despite the cursing. And
listen,
I got in Miami.
I got a 10 and an 8-year-old. They hear me all day cursing.
This is true. And but if you don't get an opportunity to meet Serge at the art fair because tickets are limited, and limited tickets do remain, you can meet Serge in his studio here, as well as the rest of the resident artists.
And there's some amazing artists in here from all walks of life, and that's what's great about Zero Empty Spaces. I know this is not Zero Empty Spaces.
No, but it's your studio.
But what's great about Zero Empty Spaces as well is that you're around different artists from different walks of life, and you know, my canvas work. I've taken the advice of some of my studio mates and price my prices a certain way. Varnishing and thus, so I've learned from them. They've learned some spray paint tips from me. But listen, Zero Empty Spaces, get a studio, even if it's in Gulf Ocean, Hollywood, it doesn't matter, because it also creates the opportunity. If you have a studio, it creates the opportunity for you to tell your collector who reached out to you on Instagram, hey, come to my studio, as opposed to come to my house. Which, listen, I did that for many years, and I would meet somebody in Starbucks, which means very affordable. But let me pick this.
So we have an opportunity for you to meet Serge and the other resident artists of Zero Empty Spaces during Fort Lauderdale's second annual Art and Design Week. Because we could only fit so many people on the boats and in the homes, we wanted to extend out into the community to get more people engaging in the arts in Art Week. Similar to how Art Basel, as Serge mentioned, in the convention center is one fair, it's Miami Art Week. That's the 500 events that create the $1 billion economic impact and have 1 million people travel to Miami for.
But listen, isn't Fort Lauderdale known as the Venice of?
It is known as the Venice of the Americas.
Of the Americas, right? Fort Lauderdale's beautiful, and for you to get on a boat and go up to this mansion from the canal, like from the intercoastal, that in itself, for you to jump on a boat with your wife, your girlfriend, whatever, your significant other, and get on a boat and have that experience in the afternoon, walk into a $6 million mansion, $8 million. I mean, that's crazy. When do normal people do that?
How many places in the world how many places have an intercoastal canal system with luxury waterfront homes and a water taxi that could even take people to homes? Because I don't know if you know, these homes, the streets are very narrow. There's not a lot of parking, so we could not actually.
No, listen, you guys nailed it. I mean, Fort Lauderdale, the water is what's beautiful about Fort Lauderdale. The water is what's beautiful about Fort Lauderdale. For you to have an art fair and have that experience on a Saturday, Sunday, whatever it is, to come in here and go see some beautiful art and some beautiful homes.
And meet the artists. So the beautiful thing about Fort Lauderdale Art and Design Week, the second annual installment this year, taking place January 18th through the 26th, the same week as the art fair, we created resident artist studio nights and open studio nights for you to meet the resident artists of these studio spaces. We have one actually set up for our Zero Empty Spaces location on Las Olas. We have an open studio night set up for the resident artists in Fat Village, in Mass District, and there's also a New River Artists Cooperative at the History Fort Lauderdale Museum. So you can meet the artists. A lot of the artists participate in the art fair. The open studio night for Zero Empty Spaces Las Olas is Tuesday, January the 21st from 6 to 9 p.m. A lot of the artists will be here. During Fort Lauderdale Art and Design Week, there's satellite fairs. The American Institute of Architects local chapter created the second annual Fort Lauderdale Architecture Fair. There's artist talks that are for free. There's after parties. There's our opening night VIP reception party at the Bonnet House and our only annual fundraiser.
Wait, the best part, the after parties at the Wilder.
The Wilder.
And there's a drink named after me. Did you know about that?
I did not know that. So you can
There's a drink.
Surge with Surge.
There's a drink named after a few of the artists that are participating at the Wilder. You didn't know that?
Maxons didn't tell me that part, but it doesn't surprise me.
So they named a few drinks based off our favorite cocktail, favorite all this stuff. So come to the Wilder for the after party.
You'll be
Have a
there.
drink with me. I'll be there. I'll be there.
That's our Thursday night after party. Thursday, January the 23rd at the Wilder, right here in downtown Fort Lauderdale off of Broad Boulevard. Saturday night, Art Fort Lauderdale after party annually at the W Hotel. Beautiful thing. They're free admission. It's limited attendance, so we do ask you to RSVP to secure your spot in there because we can't have 5,000 people at the W, unfortunately. But we do encourage you to engage in the arts during Fort Lauderdale Design Week. If you don't have it in the budget to go to Art Fort Lauderdale, or you're not able to make it during the day because you work, whatever the case may be, engage in the arts with Fort Lauderdale Design Week. You can find out more at www.ftladw, Fort Lauderdale Art and Design Week on Facebook and Instagram. You can reach out to me. I'm Evan Snow, at Evan Snow 13 on Instagram, at Shoes954, at Art Fort Lauderdale, at Zero Empty Spaces, at everything else.
All that. It's listed right here. illSurge, at illSurge.
At illSurge.
And come say hi to me in Fort Lauderdale whenever you want. Come have a drink with me.
8880 East Las Olas Boulevard, open daily between the hours of 12 to 5. Type in Zero Empty Spaces Las Olas. And we look forward to seeing you at the docks of the Pier 66 Marina Thursday, the 23rd through Saturday, the 26th. www.artfortlauderdale. Get your tickets while they're remaining.
In the art house too. That's all that matters.
See ya.